In recent years, the Roman fish tank for fish farming have been granted the monumental status due to both their extraordinary construction, expertise, and their knowledgeable hydraulic technology applied. They represent the marker for the study of climate change and the movement of terrestrial crust, and in particular for the study of the answer level on the Tyrrhenian Sea. At the beginning of the first century AD, second the recent studies, to 1.20 on 1.30 meter under the middle sea level. Their localization in Mediterranean concern, in particular the Lazio and Campania, being these localities very near to Rome, but their presence is variously distributed in all the basin and Mare Nostrum. Usually, their type was divided in litho reconstructo, with artificial structure in concrete and no, or in petra excisa, when they were partial or totally excavated in the rock, structure in the three parts: mole, ovvero moles, scusate, that border the tanks by natural or artificial barrier, on open sea, hindering the violence to the sea in the preventing to fish from being disturbed. I rivi, that were the adduction channel for the entry of water during the high tide, with metering cords of break the violence of the waves inside the tanks, and to estuaria for water flow during low tide. Finally, the real tanks connect to each other by opening close by sluice gate, cataracta or cancelli, that had to emerge constantly above sea level even during high tide and prevent fish from passing from one tank to another. Il Centro Studi Marittimi del GAC, in collaboration with the Museum del Mare della Navigazione Antica, especially in the last few years, has focused its activity in water by standing the Roman fish tanks located on the Ceretana coast in municipality of Santa Marinella. The place like Gruttacce, near here. The structure of fish tanks are concrete resting on foundation in Pietraforte. The hemicycle plant form at least 6 tanks, of which the central semicircular plant has a stabulatio function. Some certainly had been used also for breeding oyster and mussel because, as Columella recalled, they needed water mixed with sweet wine. In this regard, we can justify the presence in the villa of a large number of cisterns for conserving water. The plant distributed over an area of about 1,000 square meters is composed in 3 semi-corridors units, divided into tanks of various sizes connected by funnel channels arranged in a funnel. Between 2 tanks was recovered and a lead sluice gate still in situ, now kept in our Museo del Mare della Navigazione Antica. Another portion of sluice gate, this time in marble, has instead been recently recovered by the Centro Studi Marittimi. It was in a horizontal position in the opening in the diving wall and opening diving wall between the easternmost and the central half moon. The dating of the fish tank based on sea level in 19 15 and more or less 15 before present. Castrum Novum. We are in the present two distinct plants, a concrete-based fish tank with apsidal side probably related to a maritime villa, and a much larger on-dive development and at least 3 years ago, starting from the end of the 30th century before Christ. The first constructed by moles in square work and sandstone blocks. This structure lowers the dating of fish farm and shelling fish breeding dating back to about a century, which the sources say, and is also the oldest known today. That apsidal concrete, certainly connected to a villa d'Ozium placed near the shore, spread with northeast and southwest orientation for a length of 43 meter and width of 25 meter, developing a surface of about 1,000 square meter. It appears to be divided in 3 parts. The upset with the 3 adduction channel obtained under the pier with different orients to follow the entry of water according on the origin of the current. In this sector, with the function of stabulatio, there are the crepiding leaning against. Leaning against the pier, made up the sesquipedali bricks placed at 30 and 35 centimeters under the current reach of the pier. The center consists of at least 10 tanks in concrete and facing tracks reticolato in opera reticolato. The 2 tanks of on western side are bordered by divine wall and 4 opening with gargami and raised remains of leaden sluice gate with a varied degree of preservation. The 2 most conserved have dimension of 1 for 1 meter with a threshold post to 1.65 under sea level and holes of 2 centimeters and in diameter. Of particular importance during the research, it's turned out to be the discovery and large limestone labs with a center fixture which had to be placed above the crest on the wall used to insert the lead sluice gate from above. To the outer implant on the west side adjacent to the pier, a big ascalar sandstone formed by 3 surpoise plates with a center hole, has revealed the presence of numerous oyster shells, also found at other point on the sea bottom. This makes that would serve the hole for using one of the poles required for establishment of shellfish farming, Australia, who supported a trellis system and baskets where was attacked in juvenile. Finally, on the southward bank bound by a concrete wall still in situ, trench on one submerged stone block floor have been found for a development of over 120 square meters with the function of surface area for activity related to breeding or the host, the guest of the dominus during banquets by the sea based on fish remembered from the source. The second much The second, much larger and more detailed fish tank, showed 3 different costume faces. A first square work in sandstone boulders and wide 74-40 meter, where southwest corner there are 3 rows and ascalar blocks of head and cutting for height of 1.18 meter over the foundation. This structure was connected at open sea by means of 3 water channels, but with the technique in place with ascalar head, with entrance of the channel of ingress of place to a depth of 2 meter and 16 centimeter wide. In initial part of the longest channel of the boulders placed transversely, delimiting the entry of water during the high tide, also making this area on the fish tank practicable. The depth of the channel, combined with construction technique in a square work of the structure, would date it to the end 30/beginning 2nd century before Christ. At later period, however, the other structure, located a few meters at north, are constituted by a pier parallel of the coast built with the technique of the head and cutting segment, but small and filling with water channel placed at 6 meter interval. More toward the back then, highlighted by satellite photos, there is a rectangular tank with dimension 38/18 meter with a water flow channel along 60 meter. It consists in two sections with different inclination, built with the technique of the ascalar placed at the head and inserted in the cutting bottom. It can also be noted that the length of the channel for the water outflow is much longer than that of the concrete fish tank in the last phase that will be water outflow is much longer that we will now describe. This could be explained by the great distance from the shore of the oldest due to a lower sea level. This phase of the fish tank is therefore possible of date. It's in intermediate stage, 2nd, 1st century before Christ, where the square work technique is still used and no jet, the concrete that is used in one build inside the first phase this tank. It's constituted by a central structure that has the same dimension as the early of before. It's described and having the same longitudinal axis. Water supply was assured by 37 meter along input channel and the variable depth, greater inward, connect to the sea through two gates in the seafront pier. The place drain channel at the northwest corner was provided with a sluice gate, was the leading growth and still with visible in the wall. Structure and form concrete. Other tanks, they are present between the inner fish tank described and pier fishing in the sea. In one of these, there is still the Pitine formed by Bessali, placed at over 50 centimeters under the current crest of the perimeter wall of tank, similar to this, to the apsidal fish tank mentioned above. Finally, A massive breakwater consists of rocky outcrops of stone and loose boulders which rise to over 50 meters from the fish tank, preserved then from the traverse of the sea and the winds from the west and northwest. The study of fish tanks by the Centro Studi Marittimi continues in cooperation with l'Istituto Superiore Centrale del Restauro e l'Università della Calabria. Grazie, buona serata.